Today I'm going to talk about my current setup for videography, and the camera that I mainly use is the Canon EOS R6. This is the first version, not the Mark II, and it's what I've been using for about a year or two now. Ever since getting more into videography, especially for making these YouTube videos. I previously used to use my Canon 5D Mark IV, which is what I'm filming on at the moment, and the reason why this video is only in 1080p. And there's a lot of benefits to the R6, but mainly the reason I bought it was because I was already shooting Canon. I already had Canon lenses, I was already invested in the Canon lens ecosystem, and they have a great adapter to adapt Canon EF lenses, which is for the old SLRs, to the EOS R mount, which is for the mirrorless cameras like this one. So I just thought it was a good all-rounder, especially considering I was already invested. Plus I got a good deal on it. They included a free adapter at the time. There was a good deal at DigiDirect. But then beyond that, why is this good for videography? For me, it was because it's just a good all-round camera that can do photo and video, because I also primarily do photography work. I shoot events and weddings and whatever else I can get my hands on. And I've been getting more into video over these last 2 years, especially for YouTube videos. So this is a great camera for that dual capability between doing photography and videography. Now, the next thing was the video-centric features. First of all, this camera has IBIS. It has in-body image stabilization. Previous one I had did not have that. And it does 4K 50 frames. Again, 5D didn't do that, so there's a big advantage there. And plus, it doesn't crop. So with the 4K on my 5D, for example, it crops in a lot. Another reason I wasn't using it right now. It also has C-Log built in. The 5D I had to pay for that upgrade. It was only C-Log 1. This one has C-Log 1 and C-Log 3. I won't go into the details of why all that's good. I'm sure you can look into it yourself. Next great point about this for videography is that it has the built-in mic and headphone jacks and HDMI. And they're standard sized mic and headphone jacks. So that was another advantage there. Some cameras don't actually have that, or you need to use a smaller one with an adapter. So I prefer that full-size setup. Next, it is a fairly small and compact and ergonomic camera. Right now, it's rigged up in this small rig cage. I don't always use this. When I'm shooting YouTube videos at home and other situations, I will use this, but a lot of the time I don't even bother having it rigged up like this. I just put it here on display so I can show you what I sometimes add to it. So it's a quality build, this camera. It might look a bit plasticky, but it feels pretty solid in the hand. Everything looks and feels fairly high quality. It's made in Japan. So the next thing is it has great menus and usability. I've always loved the way Canon menus work, how easy and intuitive they are to operate. I've just been using them for so long, so I think that's part of it. But generally speaking, I have used many other camera systems, including Sony, Fujifilm, Nikon, and out of all of them, I think I like Canon's menus the most. Sure, there might be some bias because I've used them more than anything else, but I just think they're intuitive, the way they're color-coded and they're split into sub-menus and all that. So the last thing I thought would be worth mentioning is that Canon's warranty is quite good. It's been extended some time ago. It used to be just 1 or 2 years, but I think it's 5 years now. Not that I've ever really thought I would need it on this, but it's just nice to have a good warranty on your camera. I don't know if it varies from country to country, but here in Australia, the Canon warranty that's offered is quite good. Okay, so those are all the pros and the reasons why I went for this camera. And soon I will go into some of the accessories for videography, but I'll just quickly go over some cons of this camera for videography. First of all would have to be the rolling shutter and moire that can occur on this sensor. Now this probably doesn't matter for most people, and even for me it doesn't really matter, but it's something that I do sometimes notice. If you're panning your shots, you get that rolling shutter. And then also if you are shooting anything with a lot of fine detail, like lines or denim or certain clothing, especially you can get this moire effect. It's almost like Newton rings in your video. So again, minor thing, doesn't really matter too much to me. Next one, it's quite significant, and that's that this camera can overheat in video, mainly when you're shooting 4K. It doesn't really happen in 1080p, but if you're shooting extended 4K, especially in hot environments, so here in Australia, it can get pretty hot, especially if you're shooting in a studio environment and there's not much airflow or ventilation, like you've got it on a shelf or it's blocked on either side. After about 20 or so minutes of continuous shooting, it can overheat. It will give you a warning first, and you'll have that head start, that warning that it's going to overheat soon. But it's just worth keeping in mind if you're someone who plans to shoot long, continuous interviews or something just in non-stop 4K, especially if you're shooting log 10-bit in the full quality video format. So just keep that in mind. It's never really affected me. I've even taken it to weddings because I only ever really shoot in bursts. And even when I'm shooting YouTube videos, I might talk for up to 30 minutes shooting 4K and nothing ever happens. I'll have that warning, well before that. And only if it's really hot, I've had the overheat warning. And if I'm doing a lot of takes and I'm going beyond that 20, 30 minutes, sometimes I've noticed the overheat. But the last firmware update I did helped extend that time before it heats up. But it's definitely worth considering if you want to leave the camera rolling for long periods. Third thing as a con that I think is just the price. It's a decent price considering the competition, but it's still an expensive camera. It's not a cheap camera. There is a lot of capability in there, but I wouldn't call it a bargain or really high value or anything like that. If you're going to get the use out of it that I do, then it is really great value. I use it as a second camera for photography, as a main camera for photography sometimes. I use it for video, so it's really versatile in my use case. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the main accessories and add-ons I use for video. The main lens I use on this camera is this 35mm. It's a native R-mount lens. It's a 35mm f1.8, and it's fairly compact. It's a prime lens. It focuses really close, and it was a fairly good price. It's not like a high-end L lens or anything like that, but the quality is really nice. The autofocus is fast. The out of focus highlights are fairly nice. And it has that macro focus. So you can actually focus really close with this lens and really get that fine detail. It gives you that versatility to do almost everything. So this is the main lens I use because it's so versatile. It's 1.8, it's fairly light, it's fairly small. And because you can get that close focus, it's almost like a one lens to do everything kind of setup. Now I still do use other lenses, but this is the main lens I use, and it's my favorite lens for videography because it also has that in-lens stabilization. So that combines with the in-body stabilization, and it gives you a really great run and gun setup for doing video. The next thing I have on it right now is this cage. This is a small rig cage for the R6. It's called the Black Mamba. So they have two variations for whatever reason. I think this Black Mamba is a slightly better one, maybe. I don't think there's much difference, but I bought this because it was on sale on their website, on the Small Rig website, and it's probably one of the best cage options out there. So why do I use a cage? Well, when I'm attaching a lot of accessories, especially having the monitor on there, and then maybe wanting to attach microphones and then other accessories, you just have that capability to add it all. And then you get the security of those little clamps for the plugs, so you don't accidentally bend those HDMI plugs or anything like that. And then also what I really liked is having this handle. So I started to do things like commercial work in terms of video or weddings, and it would be really nice to be able to have that handle to get low angles and to have a more comfortable position to hold the camera while monitoring from the screen up there instead of kind of like bending over and looking at the little screen on the camera. I don't always use it, but I have it in case I need it. Next, I have the microphone. So the main microphones I use are all Rode mics. I love Rode mics because I just have been using them for a while, and I started with earlier versions and have been upgrading. This is the Rode Wireless Go 2 wireless mic system. I use that when I need to be out and about and moving, so YouTube videos especially. And then I have a Rode NTG video mic. So this is called the Video Mic NTG. It's a really high quality mic for shotgun type scenarios or for booming it, or situations where you just run and gun, but you're not having a lapel on the subject. And I also use the Rode Pod mic. So for my YouTube videos, this is probably what I use the most because it isolates my voice quite well from all the surrounding noise. You can't really hear it too easily, but there's a lot of road noise and highway noise near where I live and other noises that pop up. So having this is my preferred option for studio or YouTube stuff. But when I can't be near the computer or near a microphone stand, if I, for whatever reason, need that ability to move around, I'll use something else. Like I might boom this microphone out of frame, or I'll just use the lapel on the Rode Wireless Go 2. I also have and use some other microphones like the Rode Wireless Micro, I think it's called, the Video Micro. It's like a little mini version of this that doesn't need a battery. So it doesn't have a built-in battery or anything. It just runs straight off the camera. And that's good if you want a portable option for a shotgun mic, like maybe with traveling overseas or other situations. It'll still give you way better quality than what is built into the camera's microphone. Anything's better than that. So yeah, I just have a whole bunch of Rode mics that I enjoy using. And the bonus is they're made in Australia as well, and they're really high quality. I've never had an issue. And there's a lot of great support and software for Rode mics, which is why I continue to use them. So the next thing I have rigged up at the moment, this is quite essential for shooting outside. I don't really use it inside, but this is an Earth gradual or graduated ND from ND8 to 128. So I think that's about 1 to 10 stops. I also have another one from a brand whose name I've forgotten. But yeah, I'd recently been using this because I found there was a bit less color cast and I like the quality of that one a little bit more, but you know, any good ND will work. I just have been using Earth ones lately. And another filter I might commonly use for video is a Pro Mist filter. So this is a Tiffen Pro Mist Black, I believe, or regular. It's the 1/8 strength. I don't like to go too strong on these. I prefer using 1/8 and weaker diffusion filters if I ever want that diffusion for that slight kind of glowy effect to soften the highlights. In fact, I'm using it on this video right now with the 5D Mark IV. You probably can't notice it too much, but this, you know, highlight just behind my shoulder has that little bit of a soft glow on it. It just helps soften the image on a digital sensor if you want that, which can be nice for video. And last but not least, I have the monitor up here. This is the Atomos Shinobi monitor. So I have it on a little small rig mount, which allows me to rotate and angle it. And this is just a great high quality monitor that you can use for videography or other purposes. It doesn't do built-in storage, so you can't record to it, but it is just a great screen for monitoring your image and getting a better angle on it. It's great for outdoor visibility because the built-in screen, especially if you flipped it up and you're filming yourself, for example, it can be really hard to see it and to monitor the exposure, or especially if you're shooting log and you want to be able to see waveforms and stuff like that. This can be really good. Or if I'm shooting in the studio and I'm shooting YouTube video myself talking, it just gives me much better visibility of the frame and everything that's going on, all the essential information. If I'm still recording, if I've got an overheat warning, the microphone levels, it's just much easier to see. Despite the fact that this camera does have a flippy screen, I just like having this. It just can be really useful. And then sometimes some cameras don't have that flip screen, so this can be an advantage for that if you use multiple cameras. So that is pretty much it. That's my current setup for video. I quite enjoy it. If I'm going traveling, which I'm actually doing next month, I don't take all this stuff by any means. No, I just take the camera and the lens and then maybe filters, and then I will use the Rode Wireless for my microphone setup. So I don't take the bulky parts like the screen and the big mic and the cage. There's no need for that unless it's professional work, I find, because when you're traveling, you want to save weight. And the beauty of this camera is when it's stripped down, it's quite light, it's quite compact, but very capable. So I enjoy using it, and I'll probably be using it for at least another few years, maybe. We'll see. You can never tell when it comes to gear. But yeah, with editing, I use DaVinci Resolve, which is the studio version. Studio version is required to edit the 10-bit files you get, the log files. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I just thought I would share it because some people, you know, might be curious what works for me, or, you know, can work quite well for videography, especially for YouTube. I find it's a good setup. There is an R6 Mark II. I don't know much about that, so I can't tell you whether or not you should get the R6 Mark II or Mark I, but I can tell you that you can't go wrong with this one. I don't think there's much difference, but if they're about the same price, then obviously get the newer one. But if you can find a good deal on this R6 first version, I think go for it. They've probably gotten a lot cheaper by now since the time I got it, and it's just a great camera. There's no need, I think, for this kind of usage to go for the R5, which has 8K and some other advantages. I think this is quite a great compromise that can save you a lot of money, but still get the job done for most purposes. But let me know in the comments if you have any specific questions about this gear or other things to do with videography. I will, hopefully, if I ever change anything drastically, do another video sometime down the track, and I'll try and answer any questions you might have. So yeah, hope this was helpful to a few of you, and I'll see you in the next video.